Indie Bohemians Morning Show.
The Rolling Stones. That's who that was. It's Ron Placone here. You're listening to the Indie Bohemians Morning Show right here on Radio Free Nashville, 107.1 FM, 103.7 FM, broadcasting citywide. Gee, Ron, you guys usually don't play something as large as the Rolling Stones. Every now and again, you throw in a Stones track or something like that. You throw in the Beatles. You throw in something classic. Your morning show's certainly not trying to be too hot for the dials, but the Rolling Stones, all by themselves, that's kind of atypical. Usually you do your music in a little bit of a suite. This was not a suite. This was one song. What's going on? Or some of you might know what's going on. Some of you might know that Bobby Keys, legendary saxophone player for the Rolling Stones, is no longer with us. He passed away at 70 years old. He was a guy that knew how to live and knew how to live well. You know, George Carlin, who's somebody that I guess you'd say I admire his work an awful lot. He said at one point, and this was later in his career, he said, you know, here in the United States, in American culture, we've learned how to add years to our life, but not life to our years. And that, of course, I think that can be extended to humanity in general. That's not, you know, an exclusive thing to the U.S. or anything like that. And if there's one group of people that you can say knows how to add life to their years, it's the Rolling Stones, I'd say, and it's Bobby Keys. Bobby Keys believed in the power of rock and roll. He said, you know, I've played with a lot of A-player guys, but if they can't play together, if they don't feel that magic, it doesn't matter. It's all for nothing. He knew that. Him and Keith Richards were pretty close. Keith Richards, that's a good friend to have. Keith Richards, they were buddies. They were buddies. And yeah, if Keith Richards is a good friend of yours, guess what? Your liver might not be around forever. That's true. Maybe it'll only be around until age 70, but guess what? You are going to have a lot of life in those years, and that is what's most important for Mr. Bobby Keys. So, in tribute, wanted to play something, and of course we played Brown Sugar by the Rolling Stones, one of his more legendary works that he recorded with the band in studio, had a long career with them, and I got to see the Rolling Stones, and I actually walked into the concert. I had a ticket, but I never needed it, and it's an interesting story. I was in college, and the Rolling Stones, I think, have kind of taught me a lot about life in a lot of ways, and sometimes it was even secondhand. It was even through an experience that involved the Rolling Stones. And what happened was I was in Europe for the first time. I was studying abroad in Italy. It was incredible. I was having the time of my life, and I talked to my parents. You know, it was this was before international cell phones were as prevalent as they are now, and this was before like smartphones and all that. And so you use like this one main phone that was eventually like long distance international calls were free for a certain period, and pretty much all the students there, this was like a college thing, they would call their parents like once a week or something, and I called mine, and they said, hey, well, got a surprise for you. This is an early birthday gift, but this is, consider this a birthday gift. We got you tickets to the Rolling Stones at Wrigley Field. And because I went to Indiana University, Chicago's not too far away, they got me tickets to see the Rolling Stones in Chicago. I called my girlfriend at the time, and I said, hey, and we were kind of on the outs, right? Because I'm in Europe, I'm doing my thing. She's in the States doing her thing. So we were like, we'll put this on hold and revisit this because we're 21-year-old kids. We don't have responsibilities, or we don't think long-term. We just have libidos, and that's what we do. So we were just whatever. And I call her, and I said, hey, I'm so excited. Brace yourself. Guess what I got? September. Guess where we're going? Rolling Stones. We're going to see the Rolling Stones. Her response, you're paying for gas, right? Wait a second. We're going to see the Rolling Stones. Did you hear we're going to see the Rolling Stones. You have a free ticket to go see the Rolling Stones. Yeah, but you're going to pay for gas, right? The Rolling Stones. And I would have gladly paid for gas. I would have paid for dinner. That's not the point is, how are you not celebrating this. And I was like, why are you not excited about this? And she's like, I'm not really, why do you think I'd be interested in that? And I was like, because I find myself attracted to you, and I think you're a tasteful enough human being that you would appreciate the Rolling Stones. Apparently I was wrong, and ladies and gentlemen, at that moment I knew that that was not the woman I was going to spend the rest of my life with. You know, we had talked like, oh, what if we're still together after graduation? So what's going to happen? She's a very sweet girl. I wish her the very best. And we still talk every so often. And she's great, and she's awesome, and she's doing well, and I'm glad for that. But I'll tell you what, that phone call was a game changer. I thought, that's really? Rolling Stones. And interestingly enough, I talked to another one of my buddies at the beginning of the semester when I got back to school, and he said, hey, if you and your girlfriend break up, can I be your date to the Rolling Stones? And I was like, yeah, you got it. I laughed because I thought we were going to be okay. You know, the semester was back in session, whatever. We weren't. You know, it was just, it had run its course. It was over. It was time for both of us to move on. We broke up. I called him a couple weeks before the show. Hey, man, remember that thing you said about the Rolling Stones? Yeah, well, guess what? I'm a single man. We're going to see the Rolling Stones. My buddy from New York, my buddy Ben, he's back in New York now. We drove up to Chicago. It was north. We drove the 3.5 hours to Chicago, and we went to go see the Rolling Stones. He paid for gas, and he paid for dinner. Dinner was on him, so was gas. He's like, dude, these tickets were like $100, and I got to see the Rolling Stones. And then, randomly, at Wrigley Field, nobody took our tickets. We walked in the entrance we were supposed to walk in, and nobody took our tickets. And then we saw one of the most amazing shows I've ever seen. It was spectacular. They didn't miss a beat. They were phenomenal. The set list was great. The only thing that was a bummer, our opening act was the Blues Brothers. They were atrocious, horrible to watch, and I was embarrassed for them seeing them up on the stage. The other opening act for that tour, Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam. Could have gotten Pearl Jam or the Blues Brothers. Got the Blues Brothers. But, I mean, come on. Can you really complain? I can't complain. Would it have been cool to get Pearl Jam? Of course. But the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones. Tell you what. You got to appreciate the Rolling Stones. And you got to appreciate Bobby Keys. A man that knew the power of rock and roll. A man that knew great music. A man that knew how to live and lived well. He only had 70 years on this planet. That's not a ton. One could argue you need a lot more than that, but he made the most of those 70 years. Thanks for all the great tunes, and rest in peace, Bobby Keys. You're listening to the Indie Bohemians Morning Show.